Welcome to my channel. My name is Rainer. It's Sunday and it's time. No, it's not Sunday. It's Sunday when you see this. Okay. It's Saturday today, the 29th of January. It's time for a Sunday sum up. I talk about the books that I've read last week and the books that I'm currently reading and the books that I might pick up over the course of the next days. So let's get this video started. Let's speak about this day. It's Saturday, the 29th of January, and outside of my beautiful window here, you can see it behind me. We also can see a mirror of myself. Outside of this window, it's raining, it's chilly, it's dark, it's black night, pitch black night, and it has been raining the whole day. This is a day. Yeah, well, I have to go out for a couple of minutes at least, but it's raining, and it's raining these small drops, and very intensely, the way you get wet like after 3 or 4 minutes of just visiting outside. So I might have a day where I'm actually not even going out for a minute. But now let me speak about the books that I finished last week. And these were two, when I'm right, and this is In, a graphic novel by Will McPhail from a Scottish writer, a Scottish graphic novelist, who wrote this great novel about a man who is struggling to have communications with the outside world, with his contacts, with his sister, with his mother who is dying of cancer, with the oncologist who is treating her mother, and other people surrounding him. He always says the wrong things and he never can make a real contact to them. And this is a very good book that I liked. It was my second graphic novel of this year, and it dealt almost with the same topic, the topic of loneliness, the topic of communication, of our inability in the 21st century to communicate with each other. The second book that I finished was April in Spain by John Banville. John Banville is an Irish writer. He won the Booker Prize for 2005 for his novel The Sea, which also has been filmatized. There's also a movie for which Banville has written the screenplay. And John Banville, he's also known under his moniker, under his pseudonym Benjamin Black, and he has written a lot of crime novels under this name. Novels like A Death in Summer, novels like The Silver Swan and Christine Falls, and all these novels, all these crime novels that he has written have the pathologist Quirk from the city of Dublin in Ireland as the protagonist. And Quirk is also now figuring as the protagonist in the novel April in Spain. He's together with his wife in Spain, actually in the Basque country, in San Sebastian city. No, not in in San Sebastian, I'm sorry. A city that's also called Donostia, I think, in the Basque language. And they have a beautiful holiday. It's not our time. It's somehow the 60s, I guess. 60s or it must be the 1960s, because General Franco is still the dictator. He's still ruling Spain, and a lot of things are different from today also, of course, with the technology, with travel and other stuff. And this is in the 60s, and Quirk is on holiday with his family, with his wife in Spain, and he sees an Irish woman, he hears an Irish woman, the accent that she has, pronouncing the word theater, which I cannot pronounce in Irish. And Banville registers that I have heard this voice before, I have seen this woman before, and finally he comes to the conclusion that this woman must be a friend of his daughter that has been declared dead, but apparently she's alive. And now things start to roll also in Dublin, because some people don't want this woman to come back. Her name is April Latimer, who want her to come back to life because they have things to hide. And people are moving to Spain. I'm not going to tell you much more. This is a mystery with great atmosphere, with beautiful characters. It's not a classical thriller. If you are, for example, reading police procedurals and you love them by authors like Michael Connelly and Peter Robinson, as I do, you might not like John Banville's novel that much. But I really liked it. I could enjoy it. And it was really a very good read. So now let's get to the books that I'm currently reading. And here we are with another crime novel that I didn't know anything about when I borrowed it from the library. I just fell for the title because I have traveled twice to Japan in my life, in 2015 and 2019. I was in Tokyo, the beautiful capital of Japan. I always fell for Japanese literature or when there's something to do with Japan in the books that I read. So this is by a British novelist, Tokyo Redux, by David Peace is his name. I never heard anything about Mr. Peace before. Apparently this is the last book in a trilogy that Peace has written about Japan, but luckily this also works as a standalone. So I'm reading this as a standalone, and I read the first chapter. It plays in 1949. Tokyo and Japan are still under American occupation. And let me get the name right. Yes, the president Shimoyama is the president of Japanese Railways. He has been kidnapped. And there's this American police officer who works for the occupational forces in Japan. His name is Sweeney, who is investigating this case. More than this I haven't read yet, but it's really a very readable and good novel so far. So let's see how it goes on in the next week. Then I also got from the library here in Stockholm, I've waited a couple of months almost for this one. It's a Swedish book. This is by Diamant Salihu. I have to hold it up like this. It's called Tills Allador, Until Everyone Dies. And Diamant Salihu is he's a young journalist born in 1983. And he has done a lot of work as a crime reporter. For example, the same work that Michael Connelly did so many years ago with the Los Angeles Times. Diamant Salihu is working with the Swedish television, SVT, and he has formerly worked for newspapers. But he has always sort of observed the great gang conflicts that we have here in Stockholm. And this is about a very special conflict in the suburb of Rinkeby, northwest of the town, of the city center in Stockholm. It's different from the United States, where the United States have a lot of problems with the inner cities. The problems in Sweden are in the suburbs. It's totally different from life in the US. If you are from the US here, it's very much different. You can travel to Rinkeby by the subway. It's on the so-called blue line. We have the blue line, the red line, and the green line. And Rinkeby is in the northwest, as I said. It's on a field called Järvafeltet, the Järva field, and we have a couple of suburbs there called Rinkeby, Tensta, and Kista, to name the three biggest ones maybe. And this gang conflict that he's talking about here is started in 2016 when a Forex is an exchange company that changes money from, you can change dollars to Swedish kroners, you can change Swedish kroners to Arabian money, to Somali money. And Forex was robbed in 2016 by a bunch of very young people, mostly of them Somali Swedish people, and they made like 2 million crowns, which is about $200,000. Then, when this robbery got known in the underworld of Rinkeby, a couple of young guys who wanted to have joined the robbers to do the heist together with them were extremely angry that they weren't participating in this robbery. So they got so angry that they actually killed one of the robbers of this heist in 2016. And this led to a situation where former friends in the age of 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 years got deadly enemies for the rest of their lives, probably. Lots of people have been killed since then in this conflict, and Diamant Salihu gives in this book a map of Rinkeby where you can see who else has been killed in this single conflict. And he also describes, apparently in this book, what has happened, why this situation for young boys, especially young boys, is so as it is, and why the suburb is so segregated, and why the police doesn't really can get a grip on it. This is a very fascinating book. Many people want to read it in Stockholm. I was on the queue number 255 when I checked in for that. Now I got it and I have 2 weeks time to read it, but I have already read about 80 pages, so I'm confident to be able to finish that. Then I have bought books. I buy new books, but I want to do my book buying this year in a different way. I really want to read the books that I buy, and I want to sort of put them on a TBR very quickly so that I really can read them and I really can review them for you as well, but that they don't end up on the shelves and 2 years later I wonder, why haven't I read this book? Like so many books that are on my shelf have gotten that fate, have met that fate. So now I have a very new book here that was published on the 4th of January in the United States and in the UK. And this was written by Daphne, Palasi, Andreades. I hope that I pronounce your name somehow right. And this is called Brown Girls. And Brown Girls is a pretty slim novel. It was published by Penguin Random House. And this is not directly, I have read now about 30 pages in this book, and I like it. I really like it a lot. This is not directly about certain specific characters, but it's written in the first form plural of brown girls living in New York and how they are. There is no plot until now on the first 30 pages. There's only I can read a little bit so that you can understand how this works, and I really like it. It's very amusing, and she has very good observing qualities, and she's writing in a very beautiful way. So this is Brown Girls. We live in the dregs of Queens, New York, where airplanes fly so low that we are certain they will crush us. On our block a lonely tree grows. Its branches tangle in power lines, its roots upend sidewalks where we ride our bikes before they are stolen. Roots that render the concrete steps uneven like a row of crooked teeth. In front yards, not to be confused with actual lawns, grandmother's string laundry lines hang bedsheets, our brother's shorts, and our sneakers scrubbed to look brand new. Take those down, our mothers hiss. This isn't back home. In front yards grow tomatoes that have fought their way through the hard earth. Our grandmothers refuse canes, our brothers dress in wife beaters. We all sit on stoops made of brick. The Italian boys with their shaved heads zoom by on bikes, staring, their laughter harsh as their shiny gold chains. So this is the way the book is written. On the first 30 pages, very short snippets of like 1.5, and 2 pages with a headline like Last Day, like Brown Boys, like Girls Like You, and so on. And I really like it a lot. Brown Girls by Palasi Andreades, a debut novel from the United States. The final book is a book that I can already claim I'm going to read it for Black History Month. This is also a book that I ordered immediately when I read about it. I read about it in The Guardian when Bernardine Evaristo recommended this book to me and to you if you read The Guardian, and if you read this beautiful article that they have always at the end of the year where authors recommend their favorite books of 2021. And one of the books that the wonderful Bernardine Evaristo recommended was a nonfiction book by Professor Kehinde Andrews, and this is called The New Age of Empire. Kehinde Andrews is the first professor of Black Studies in the United Kingdom. He's working at Birmingham City University, where he led the establishment of the first Black Studies program in Europe. He's also the chair of the Harambee Organization of Black Unity and editor-in-chief of Make It Plain. He's the author of Back to Black, Retelling Black Radicalism for the 21st Century. And this is kind of a radical approach. This is called The New Age of Empire, and the subtitle is How Racism and Colonialism Still Rule the World. I read the long introduction by Mr. Andrews, by Kehinde here, and he is sort of saying that slavery and the age of colonialism that was sort of in the 19th century, that this age hasn't actually ended. It's still going on, that we still have an age of colonialism with new colonial powers involved, with old colonial powers involved as well, but also with new colonial powers like China. And this is a very powerful book, and this is a very radical book, but I love to read it, and I want to know what Kehinde Andrews is thinking. The New Age of Empire. Those are the 4 books that I'm currently reading. And right now I have no plans to read any other things. I DNF'd one book because I have to decide, right? Our life is limited to a certain amount of years and to a certain amount of books, unfortunately. So I love Lauren Groff, the author. I love her. She's a great writer. I read Florida by her, the short stories where she's dealing with the state of Florida and different aspects of life in Florida. But Matrix, which I got from the library, which I have here, I will return this to the library because it wasn't my case. Because I started reading it, but then it's set in 12th century England, where this young woman, 17-year-old girl, Marie, comes from the kingdom of France, and she's sent to England to take over an abbey. And this is not my kind of book that I love to read. And I have so much other things that I really want to read. So please, Miss Lauren Groff, excuse me, I did not read this book. I wait for your next novel, and I hope you're going to set it in our time, somehow in our time. Because I'm so stuck in our time, and there's so many things happening in our time that I want to focus on that. I'm sure it's a great novel, and if you have read Matrix, please comment down below how you loved it and how you admired it. I can understand that. I also decided not to read Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia because it's also some sort of book that I really do not cherish that much. It's a story about a haunted house in Mexico, and I read the beginning and I said, no, not another story about a haunted house. I saw a very good Netflix series that I want to recommend to you. It's good, it's not very good. A good Netflix series that I saw about a haunted house that's new on Netflix now. It's called Archive 81, with two great actors that I didn't know anything about. One African American author and one Saudi Arabian Norwegian actor. In this series, it's about a house where a great fire has happened like 20 years ago, and this young guy is sort of recovering film material that was half burned in the house, and he's sort of finding out what happened in the house 20 years ago, and suddenly there's a connection between the present and the past, and it's very fascinating. But I loved, and I think everybody of you will watch it who has Netflix, I loved Ozark. Ozark, the fourth season and the final season, unfortunately, of Ozark is out now on Netflix. I advise you strongly to do it. This is part 1 of the 4th season, so there will be part 2 with hopefully 7 more episodes. So 7 episodes, I watched them all within 2 days, and I love Celebrity Crush. I had that question in one of my tech videos recently. I love Julia Garner. Not as a crush, but she is such an amazing actress, and she is running this show. She is so good. So you have to watch Ozark just for Julia Garner if you don't like the story. She is such an amazing actress. I love her. That was everything I had to say. So please drop me comments down below what you think of the books that I'm reading. Have you read anything that I'm reading now? And what are you doing? What are you watching on Netflix, on HBO, on Amazon Prime, on what else you could watch? COVID is still around. We have the biggest wave ever. Even here in Sweden, we have, I think every day, 60, 70,000 new infections. I was lucky until now. I'm not sure if I can make it without an infection. I don't know what happened to you. If you have experienced COVID, please write a comment down below how it was for you. If you had the Delta or if you had the Omicron and how you feel. I hope that you're feeling well. I hope that you can read. I hope that I see you very soon. And now it's time to say goodbye until the next tech video, which comes during this week. Thank you very much for watching this, and bye-bye.